So, hi there. Just to redundantly repeat the title, tonight we're reviewing Guardian builds, specifically the elusive shield throw build. So, this one calls for another disclaimer, a couple of them actually. Number 1, this is not an easy build nor is it newcomer friendly. It's specifically functional in the endgame and not terribly so before, and it may not in all cases surpass the popular Shrapnel Gundian build. For what it's worth, it does have the Abyss-specific advantage of very reliably applying poison if a Dissector Shield is used. And number 2, this build is very demanding in terms of skill points, so at least a helmet with +1 dual skills is required for it to work. Now on to the build. So, Shield Throw is naturally the focal point of the build. Before suggesting the exact amount of skill points that should be invested here, let me point out that that depends entirely on one's gear. Upgrading Shield Throw increases its crit chance, so while 1 point suffices to get the build started, what's ideal would be to calculate one's overall crit and CCM and boost this skill accordingly. Now, since the build will naturally be utilizing a shield then, let's see what else can be useful in this tab. So 2 points in Shield of Faith and 1 point in Shield Wall provide 2 very useful panic buttons. One might argue that those don't directly aid the build in dealing damage, but I'd argue that the benefit far outweighs the point investment cost. Then 1 point in Spiritual Toughness, not Spiritual Strength, becomes 2 through the +1 dual skills, granting 20 free stamina at the cost of 1 skill point. This can be boosted according to one's free skill points once the core of the build has been finalized, of course. Lastly, Shield Master is an imperative skill to get, as it buffs all shield skills including throw. So this will cost 6 points to max Shield Master, and 2 points in Shield Bash, 2 in Shield Turn, and 2 in Shield Charge to access it. This doesn't just grant access to both Shield Throw and Shield Master though, as all those skills can also be actively used if one wishes. Then onto Auras. 1 point in Aura of Power unlocks Aura Stability, though it can also be used if one wishes, then 6 points max Aura Stability. This will allow the Guardian to use up to 3 auras at once, or boost 1 or 2 beyond their normal power. For instance, just using Aura of Deflection with maxed stability will have it function at 130% of its normal power, a bonus which will be visible. Then let's grab Aura of Renewal to ensure we have at least 1 aura that's useful everywhere without getting it through gear. Lastly, a single point in Prayer of Healing becomes 2 through the +1 dual skills, providing some healing capabilities. Now here comes the part where opinions and builds may vary, the Retribution tab. So if one wishes to maximize shield throw damage, there's 2 skills that can massively aid it. Anchor, which takes 9 points to max, and Hamper, which takes 2 points in Sword of Reckoning to access and another 9 to max. One can skip either or both in favor of more auras or other options to boost one's versatility and or survivability, but focusing on shield throw does mean that those skills will be very useful to have. Hamper specifically also assists parties in dealing damage, but it does come with the downside of requiring a sword to use. Luckily, Grimace exists to tie the build together. So using a Grimace allows one to use Hamper, but it also provides the fantastic Aura of Deflection for free, and it also provides free accuracy points which boost CDB. So a near perfect Grimace with 50 accuracy, modded with 5 mythic accuracy mods, can yield roughly 150 accuracy, which does provide 300 free CDB for shield throw. So without any gear with plus skill points, this should leave the player with another 4 points. Those can be used to buff shield throw further, grab 1 point wonders such as Great Defender, or get such auras as Aura of Vengeance. One can even get Aura of Deflection to avoid having to use Grimace, especially if one doesn't want to use Hamper. Still, it's worth noting again that this build takes many points to work. So such gear as Souls Invictus, Warrior Belt, Archangel Gliders, Grimace, and any rings with points and skills of choice are highly recommended. In terms of gear, a final note on shields. A Keeper of the North Star can be used instead of a Dissector Shield, as its +1 to all skills can really give much room for innovation and personal skill choices. However, by not using a Dissector Shield, one would be sacrificing the ability to apply poison and be limiting their throw damage due to a lack of splash damage on Keeper. To elaborate, both shields can be crit capped even without plus crit affixes on them. A Dissector Shield should practically have 8% base crit, 1% base, 4% from the Expertise, 3% from a Face of the Crusader if one uses it. This can go higher if one's shield also has a plus crit affix, such as Avengers or Nemesis, of course. Then it also has room for CCM, roughly 50% from an augment or a legendary affix, and a total of 60 to 70% from 2 fuels. Realistically, this should be around 100%. Thus, as little as 7 points in shield throw should bump its crit chance to 43%, 8% base plus 5 per skill point, thus 35. With 100% CCM, this becomes 86% crit chance against a cast of choice, and can be crit capped with more points than shield throw. By comparison, a Keeper of the North Star has no slots, but has 10% base crit. Therefore, 18% base crit chance with the aforementioned gear, plus 50% from a maxed shield throw, can bump its crit chance to 68%. Then a single 50% CCM augment can bump this to a crit cap state. However, as Keeper has no splash damage, each bounce of shield throw will only deal direct damage, thus dealing less damage than a Dissector. One could of course argue that the extra skill points of Keeper can compensate for this damage loss by allowing such skills as Sword of Reckoning to be added to the build, or allowing for more utility and support skills, or even allowing one to use a Surgecaster instead of Grimace for potentially more overall damage, and none would be untrue. Still, it's worth noting that strictly when comparing maximum shield throw damage, Dissector shields would seem to be the superior choice, even when accounting for the higher inherent CDB of Keeper. So with that said, thank you for watching.